spread. Her arms, her neck, her back, it was everywhere. Her heart raced, panic tightening in her chest. The scratching became more urgent.
Can you believe you broke up with me? Because I farted in my sleep. Precious complained as she sank deeper into the couch, clutching a bowl of ice cream like it was a lifeline. The tears had dried, leaving behind a smudged mascara trail that mirrored her current state of emotional disarray. She couldn't fathom how something as natural as a sleep-induced fart could spell the end of a relationship, especially one so fresh. Sharon, her best friend since high school, was perched on the armrest of the couch, trying to console her with words and a shared sense of disbelief. I just don't get it, Precious. How can it be all over you 1 week and then dump you over something so basic? Exactly, Precious said, her voice cracking. It's like he was looking for a reason to leave. I don't even know if I should laugh or cry. Clearly it is loss, Sharon replied, giving Precious' arm a reassuring squeeze. You're better off without him, who can't handle a little bodily function. Precious attempted a weak smile, I guess drifting to the untouched ice cream in her bowl. It just feels like this is happening over and over again. I swear, if I had $1 for every time a guy dumped me for the silliest reason, I'll be rich. I know, Sharon said, her tone softening with empathy. But you can't let this guy's ridiculousness define you. Remember, there's a new animated movie out, and I know you've been wanting to see it. Precious looked up, her eyes blinking with curiosity through the fog of her hurt feelings. Really? You think that will help? I know it will, Sharon said with a determined nod. Get dressed and let's have a little distraction. The plan sounded tempting, so Precious rose from the couch and headed to her room to change. Meanwhile, Sharon started rummaging through her phone, double-checking movie showtimes and ticket prices. A short while later, they found themselves at the cinema. The bright light of the mall cast a warm glow over the sidewalk, contrasting sharply with the chill in the evening air. Sharon marched up to the ticket booth, her expression a mix of determination and frustration. Precious lingered behind, still feeling the sting of her recent breakup, but grateful for her friend's support. The ticket attendant, a young lady with a tired smile, greeted them. Good evening, ladies. How can I help you? Sharon didn't waste any time. 2 tickets for the new animated movie, please. That will be 4,000 naira, the attendant replied. Sharon's height widened. 4,000 naira. Wasn't it 1,000 naira last week? I'm afraid not, the attendant said with a shrug. The price of fuel has gone up, and so have the ticket prices. Sharon's eyebrows knitted together in frustration. Waiting concern like borrow with overload. It's not like the movie has gotten any better. The attendant's smile faltered slightly, but she maintained her stance. Precious stepped forward, sensing the tension. It's fine, Sharon. Let me just handle this. Sharon shot her a look of disapproval. Precious reached into her bag, pulling out 8,000 naira. She handed it over to the attendant, who took it with a grateful nod. Don't be angry now, Precious cajoled. As they walked towards the theatre entrance, it's just 4,000 naira. Sharon looked over at her expression a mix of frustration and disbelief. You know she allowed those people to pay 2,000 each, right? She'd have let me bargain. I'm sorry, Precious said with a sheepish smile. Next time I'll just watch you bargain. Better, Sharon said, her lips coiling into a small smile. But her mood shifted abruptly as she noticed something. Wait, what is he doing here? Who? Precious asked, her eyes following Sharon's gaze. She turned and saw Joan, looking around as if searching for someone. He's always stalking you, Sharon continued, her voice tinged with annoyance. I'm sure it's a coincidence, Precious replied, trying to sound nonchalant. Precious! Juwon's charming voice called out, its tone a mix of surprise and warmth. Juwon! Precious exclaimed, her voice lifting with genuine excitement as she spotted him. She waved and walked over, Sharon trailing reluctantly behind. What are you doing here? Sharon interrupted, before Precious could reach him. Hello to you too, Sharon, Juwon chuckled, his eyes twinkling with amusement. I heard there was a new movie showing. I had some free time on my hands. What about you girls? Juwon asked, pulling Precious into a side hug. His height made him tower over the two friends, casting a protective shadow over them. A couple of hours later, Precious and Sharon were back at Precious' apartment. The glow of the movie still lingered in their minds, but the evening earlier tension had resurfaced. Sharon was pacing back and forth in Precious' bedroom, her frustration palpable. "I can't believe that Juwon guy," Sharon yelled, her voice echoing off the walls. "Isn't it creepy the way he's always everywhere?" Precious, sitting on the bed with her feet tucked under her, tried to calm her friend. "He's a cool guy. Sharon, it's just a coincidence that he was at the cinema. Plus, he's my mom's friend's son. We've known each other for years." "Yeah, but it seems like he's always popping up when you least expect it," Sharon argued, stopping her pacing to face Precious. "Last week, he just happened to be passing the female hair salon that was 2 hours away from where he lives. Today, he's at the cinema by coincidence. It's like he's following you everywhere." Precious sighed, her eyebrows knitting together as she tried to explain. "He's not following me. He just happened to be there. We live in the same city, and it's not unusual for us to cross paths." Sharon threw her hands in frustration. "I don't know, Precious. It just feels off. What if it's not just a friendly acquaintance?" "Come on, Sharon," Precious said, her voice tired but firm. "Juwon is not like that. He is a decent person. Yes, it's surprising that he was there. But that doesn't mean there's something sinister going on." Sharon sat down on the bed next to Precious, her expression softening. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to sound like I'm accusing him or anything. I just want to make sure you're okay. After everything you've been through, I don't want you getting hurt again." Precious placed a hand on Sharon's shoulder, her gaze softening. "I appreciate that, Sharon. I really do. I know you're looking out for me. But sometimes people's appearance can be deceiving. Juwon is just a friend, one who happened to show up at the cinema." Sharon nodded, though her worry was still evident. In the early hours of the morning, the apartment was cloaked in the stillness of the night. Suddenly, a loud banging sound echoed through the silence. Precious stared, her heart racing. "I think someone's at the door," she whispered, reaching for Sharon, who was fast asleep beside her. "It's your house, Joe," Sharon murmured. "So, follow me now," Precious retorted, her voice edged with urgency. The two friends grabbed the broom and the mop stick for protection and cautiously approached the door. Precious turned the key, and as the door creaked open, she gasped. "Mom?" she shrieked, surprise evident in her voice. "What are you doing here?" Precious asked, her emotions a tangled mess of shock and confusion. "Is that how you welcome your mother?" Miss Williams retorted, a tone a mix of sternness and hurt. She glanced at Sharon, who stood awkwardly with the mop stick. "Sharon, what are you holding?" "Nothing, Ma," Sharon smiled shyly, dropping the mop. The three women settled into the living room, the weight of the unexpected visit settling heavily on their shoulders. Cups of hot tea were served, a small comfort in the midst of tension. Miss Williams began, her voice steady but filled with concern. "Sharon told me about your failed relationship, and honestly I'm not surprised. I've always said no reasonable young man would want a woman who moved out of her parents' home before marriage." "Mom, it wasn't about me living alone," Precious began. But Mrs. Williams interrupted. "Of course it is. They wouldn't say it outright, but who breaks up over farting?" Mrs. Williams' statement brought tears to Precious' eyes, the sting of her mother's words magnifying her pain. "I have decided," Mrs. Williams continued, her voice firm as she stood up. "You will be moving back home until you are married. You have 2 days." With that, Mrs. Williams left, her departure as abrupt as her arrival. Precious collapsed onto the couch, tears streaming down her face. "I can't believe you told her everything," she said through her sobs. "I'm sorry," Sharon said, her eyes welling up. "I meant well. I thought she would cheer you up." "It wasn't supposed to go this way," Sharon continued, her voice thick with emotion. "When has she ever cheered me up?" Precious slumped deeper into the couch, her mind swirling through the years like an endless loop. She could still hear Mrs. Williams' voice, echoing in her memory, a voice that had rarely offered solace or comfort. Years earlier, Precious had waited on the staircase, her small body trembling with cold and hunger. The house was silent, the kind of silence that settled heavily, pressing on her young shoulders. The key, which was usually hidden under the flower pot by the door, was missing. Precious had searched frantically, her small fingers scraping through the depths, but it was nowhere to be found. She sat down, tears streaming down her face as the cold began to seep through her uniform. When Mrs. Williams finally arrived, her presence was like a storm. She stomped through the door, her face contorted into a mask of anger. "What is wrong with your face?" she demanded, her voice harsh and unyielding. Precious tried to wipe her tears,
but they continued to flow unchecked. Her mother's eyes narrowed as she took in the sight of her daughter. "I was just waiting," Precious stammered, her voice barely audible. "The key wasn't where it usually is." Mrs. Williams' eyes flashed with irritation. "I've told you time and time again, Precious, that you should always have a smile on your face. Crying isn't ladylike." Her gaze dropped to the dirt smudges on Precious' uniform. "And is that dirt I see on your uniform? Such disgraceful behavior." Precious' stomach growled loudly, a sharp reminder of the empty pit inside her. She yawned, her exhaustion and hunger intertwined in that one small gesture. Mrs. Williams' face grew even more severe. "Can't you cover your mouth? It's so unbecoming." As Mrs. Williams fumbled with the keys and unlocked the door, Precious' heart raced with a mix of relief and anxiety. She dashed to the kitchen, hoping to grab a bite of something, anything, to quell the gnawing hunger. But before she could reach the refrigerator, Mrs. Williams' voice rang out from behind her. "Where do you think you're going? Go shower first, you're a mess." "But Mom," Precious started to protest, "I didn't have lunch at school today. I'm really hungry." Mrs. Williams' face was a storm cloud. "I don't want to hear excuses. Go and shower now." Precious' shoulders slumped in defeat as she trudged to the bathroom, her footstep heavy and resigned. The hot water felt like a brief escape from the relentless pressure of her mother's expectation. As she washed away the grime of the day, the warmth of the water mingled with her tears, creating a fleeting sense of comfort. The bathroom door creaked open and Precious heard her mother's voice again. This time more distant. "Dinner will be ready soon. If you're not down in 15 minutes, you'll be grounded." Precious nodded to herself, though her mother couldn't see her. She stepped out of the shower, dried off and put on clean clothes, feeling the same dull ache in her heart that she had grown accustomed to over the years. She went downstairs to the kitchen, where Mrs. Williams was setting the table, her back rigid and unyielding. As they sat down to eat, Precious forced herself to chew and swallow, trying not to think about how she felt hollow inside, both emotionally and physically. Mrs. Williams' stare gaze followed her every move, and Precious could hardly muster the courage to look up. This scene was only a snapshot of the many moments that had shaped her childhood. Every instance had built a wall of emotional distance between mother and daughter, a barrier that seemed insurmountable. In her quiet moments, Precious wondered if she could ever find a way to break through that wall, to find a spark of warmth and understanding that had so often eluded her. Precious took a deep breath, her nerves a whirlwind of excitement and anxiety, as she stood before her mother's house. The grand old home stood in contrast to the modern sleek Uber she had just disembarked from. Its white facade was pristine, but the memories it held were far from perfect. As she approached the ornate front door, she hesitated, her hands hovering over the brass knocker. The driver, a kindly-faced man in his mid-50s, peeped at her through the rearview mirror. "Is everything okay, miss?" he asked with a concerned tone. "Everything is perfect," Precious replied, mustering a bright, reassuring smile. She hoped it marks the twinge of uncertainty gnawing at her stomach. "Glad to hear that," the driver said, nodding warmly as she stepped out onto the cobblestone path. The front door swung open with a creak, and Precious was greeted by a security man she didn't recognize. It was new, with a weathered face that spoke of many trials, and a kind smile that softened his otherwise stern appearance. "You resemble your mama," he said, his voice carrying a note of familiarity mixed with a hint of respect. "Welcome, small madam." "Thank you," Precious replied, her voice trembling slightly as she stepped inside. She started to ask if her mother was home, but then thought better of it. Instead, she focused on the reassurance she repeated in her mind, like a mantra. "I just need to survive today. I just need to survive today." The interior of the house was as she remembered, elegant and imposing. The smell of a sumptuous feast wafted through the air, mingling with the sound of her mother and maid's animated conversation from the kitchen. Precious' heart raced as she walked through the ground foyer, with its marble floors and golden chandeliers. She could hear snippets of her mother's voice, sharp and authoritative and unmistakable. "Make sure the roast is tender. We don't want any complaints." Mrs. Williams' voice cut through the dim. Precious tried to calm her nerves, forcing a bright, unwavering smile as she approached the kitchen. Her mother stood at the stove, her back straight and posture commanding. The sight of her, as poised and polished as ever, only made Precious feel smaller. "Hi, Mom," Precious greeted, her voice soft but laden with the weight of apprehension. Mrs. Williams turned slowly, her face a marks of practiced indifference. That barely concealed her critical eye. "Thank God you arrived on time," she said, her tone clipped. "Go upstairs and shower. I've placed a beautiful dress in your closet. We'll be having company for dinner tonight." She paused, her gaze hardening slightly. "Don't disgrace me," she added, with a cold edge before turning back to the stove. Precious felt a pang of hurt, but tried to force herself to nod. "Yes, Mom." As she climbed the elegant staircase, her fingers brushed the polished banister. Each step echoed with the memories of her childhood, moments of both warmth and discipline. The soft light from the stained glass windows created a mosaic of colors on the walls, a stark contrast to the churning emotion inside her. In her room, she found the dress, a stunning emerald gown that shimmered under the soft light. The sight of it made her pause, a mixture of awe and dread swelling within her. Her mother's expectations were always high, and tonight was no different. The thought of facing the unknown guests, being scrutinized and measuring up to her mother's standard, felt like a mountain she had to climb. As she showered, the warm water cascading over her felt almost therapeutic. But the tension remained. She carefully dried herself and dressed, the fabric of the gown clinging to her like a second skin. She glanced at herself in the mirror, trying to steady the unease that clung to her. Descending the stairs, she caught her reflection in the hallway mirror. The dress was beautiful, but it did little to soothe the knot of anxiety in her stomach. As she approached the dining area, she could hear the murmur of voices and the clinking of cutlery. The house was bustling with activity, and she knew that her mother's guest would soon arrive. Stilling herself, Precious took a deep breath and walked into the dining room, ready to face the evening with the grace and composure her mother expected. In the dimly lit dining room, as Precious' eyes scanned the room, her eyes landed on Juwon. "Juwon, what are you doing here?" Precious asked, with surprise evident in her voice. The room was elegantly decorated, with a large mahogany dining table, pristine white tablecloth, and sparkling silverware. The aroma of the meal wafted through the air, mingling with the tension that hung heavily. "Hello, Precious." Mrs. Bankole, Juwon's mother and Mrs. Williams' best friend, greeted with a warm, a bit weary smile. "Good evening, Ma," Precious responded politely, attempting to mask her unease, sitting next to Juwon, looking at him for an explanation. "Honestly, my Precious, I don't know," he whispered. "Mom literally dragged me here, after calling me to come like it was an emergency," he offered with a smile. Just as the words left his mouth, Mrs. Williams, appearing from the kitchen with a maid, entered with a flourish, her eyes skimming over Precious with a touch of disdain. "Dinner is served," she announced, a radiant smile reserved for everyone but Precious. Precious' hands trembling slightly as she placed them in her laps. She glanced at Juwon, who was staring at her with a hint of concern. Mrs. Williams, noticing the subtle exchange, raised an eyebrow but said nothing. "Mr. Bankole and your father will be joining us soon. They are outside discussing some matters," Mrs. Williams said, her tone dismissive. Precious' lips tightened as she leaned in slightly. "He is not my father," she whispered, her voice barely audible but laced with the bitterness she couldn't quite hide. Mrs. Williams' head snapped in her direction, her eyes flashing with sharpness. "He practically raised you, Precious. Better than your own father, who was never around." Precious' eyes hardened, her courage fueled by a deep-seated anger. "And whose fault is that, Mom?" Mrs. Bankole, sensing the growing tension, quickly intervened. "What a delicious meal this is, isn't it, Juwon?" she said, attempting to redirect the conversation. Juwon, eager to shift the focus, nodded. "Yes, Mom, Mrs. Williams is definitely a great cook." Mrs. Williams laughed slightly, though the sound was somewhat forced. "Oh, you flatter me. I just supervised the maid. She cooked it." "Well, you did a great job," Mrs. Bankole added, her tone more soothing now as she tried to ease the awkwardness. The dining room door creaked open and Mr. Bankole and Mr. Williams entered, their faces lighting up as they greeted the assembled guests. They took their seats and the conversation shifted to lighter topics. The atmosphere, however, remained taut with the unspoken tension between Precious and Mrs. Williams. As the meal progressed, Mr. Bankole cleared his throat, drawing everyone's attention.
We've gathered here tonight to discuss something very important, he began, his voice steady but carrying an undercurrent of excitement. Jiwon looked at him expectantly, his earlier nervousness replaced with a hopeful curiosity. Precious, on the other hand, felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She glanced at Jiwon, her expression a mix of apprehension and irritation. Mr. Williams took over, his voice carrying a note of finality. We believe that it's time for Jiwon and Precious to think about their future together. Precious' fork clattered onto the plate. As she stared at Jiwon, her eyes wide with disbelief. What are you talking about? She demanded, her voice rising in pitch. Is this some kind of joke? Jiwon looked at her with a mixture of surprise and mid-embarrassment. I didn't know, he said, quietly, clearly caught off guard. Mrs. Williams, catching the distress in Precious' voice, added, It's not a joke, Precious. It's a wonderful opportunity for both of you. Wonderful, Precious echoed, her voice trembling with frustration. And you think I'm just going to accept this without a word? This is my life we're talking about. Jiwon shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his earlier excitement now dimmed by Precious' reaction. I didn't mean to cause any trouble, he said softly. I'm also surprised. The tension at the table thickened as Precious' face flushed with anger. She stood abruptly, her chair scraping harshly against the floor. I need some hair, she said coldly, her gaze fixed on Jiwon as she walked out of the room. The remaining guests exchanged uneasy glances. The pleasant veneer of the evening shattered. Jiwon watched Precious leave, a pang of guilt and confusion settling in his chest. Mrs. Bankole attempted to smooth things over with polite conversation, but the atmosphere remained strained. The dinner ended on a somber note, with Precious' absence casting a shadow over the gathering. Jiwon's earlier enthusiasm was replaced by a heavy sense of disappointment, and as he prepared to leave, he couldn't shake the feeling that the evening had altered the dynamics between him and Precious. Later that night, Precious lay in bed, the soft glow of the bedside lamp casting gentle shadows around her. She looked around at the walls that had witnessed so many of her milestones, her first crush, the stink of her broken heart, the tense argument with her mother. The room, once a sanctuary, now felt like a confining prison, with her mother as the warden, who controlled her every move. The weight of her current situation pressed heavily on her mind. I can't let her control me like this, Precious thoughts. Her brow furrowed. Why did I ever come back here? A sudden light tap on her window startled her from her thoughts. Her room, located on the first floor, had a window that could easily be accessed from outside. As she put back the curtains cautiously, her eyes widened in surprise. There stood Jiwon, his face illuminated by the soft street light. He held the tub of ice cream in his hands, his expression a mix of nervousness and determination. Jiwon, Precious whispered, her heart skipping a bit. What are you doing here? Jiwon gave a sheepish grin. I brought peace offering, he said, holding up the ice cream. The gate man let me in. He's my guy, you know. Precious couldn't help but smile at his mischievous tone. You know him? Yeah, I do. He helped me out a couple of times before. Anyway, can I come in? With a soft sigh, Precious opened the window, wider, allowing him to sleep inside. The night air, cool and crisp, mingled with the warmth of their shared moments. As Jiwon settled onto her bed, the two of them sat cross-legged on the floor, the tub of ice cream between them. Precious scooped out a spoonful and took a tentative bite. So what's this all about? She asked, her voice a mix of curiosity and amusement. Jiwon looked down at the tub, then back at her. Honestly, I didn't plan to ask you out this way, he said, his voice softening. But since we're here, I wanted to let you know something. Precious tilted her head, her eyes searching his face. And what's that? He took a deep breath, his cheeks flushing slightly. I wasn't upset about our parents' plans, not really. The truth is, I liked you for a long time. I know our parents want us to get married soon, but I think that's not all there is to it. I would be honored to take you out on dates, to show you how a relationship with me could be not so bad. Precious felt a flutter in her chest. She looked at him, seeing the sincerity in his eyes. You really mean that? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jiwon nodded, his eyes meeting hers with a hopeful glint. I do. A silence settled between them,
filled with the gentle hum of the night and the occasional creak of the house. Precious took another spoonful of ice cream, savoring its sweetness and offering it to Joanne with a small playful smile. Yeah, try this. It's not a date, but it's something. Joanne laughed softly, accepting the spoonful with a grateful nod. I'll take what I can get. As they continued to eat, the tension between them slowly melted away. They spoke about everything and nothing: school, their favorite movies, dreams for the future. There was a conversation that flowed effortlessly, their laughter mingling with the night's tranquility. As the ice cream dwindled to the bottom of the tub, Joanne looked at Precious with a tender gaze. I know it's a lot to ask, but would you consider giving us a chance? Not just because of our parents, but because maybe we could make something good out of this. Precious heart swelled at his words. She met his gaze, seeing not just the boy who had been her friend, but someone who genuinely cared for her. Maybe, she said softly, things might turn out alright. Joanne stood up, preparing to leave, but paused by the window. He turned back to her with a warm smile. I hope so. Good night, Precious. Good night, Joanne, she replied, watching as he slipped out the window and disappeared into the night. Precious closed the window and leaned against it, her thoughts a whirlwind of emotions. For the first time in a long time, she felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, the future wasn't as bleak as she had feared. Joanne sat on the edge of his bed, the room cast in shadows. The closet door stood slightly ajar, revealing a meticulously organized collection of photographs and mementos. He had spent countless hours creating a secret archive, a shrine to Precious that now lay open before him. With an unsettling calm, Joanne reached into the closet and carefully extracted a small hornet box. His hands shook slightly as he opened it, revealing a series of photographs arranged in perfect order. His eyes flickered with a mix of obsession and satisfaction as he picked up one of the pictures. Precious at the school events, her laughter captured mid-chime, completely unaware of the lens that captured her. A soft, almost whisper escaped his lips. My Precious. The phrase was uttered with a chilling intensity, as if he was addressing a prized possession rather than a person. He stared at the photograph, his pupils narrowing. So beautiful, he murmured. His voice a blend of adoration and something darker. He gently caressed the edges of the photo, his fingertips lingering with an unsettling possessiveness. The closet was filled with more than just photographs. There were notes, sketches, and even a lock of her hair he had somehow managed to obtain. Each item was a testament to his meticulously obsessive fixation. Joanne's gaze was fixed, almost predatory as he shifted through the contents. He picked up another photo. This one was a candid shot of her walking in the park. A smile widened into a disturbing grin as he studied her with an unnerving focus. You see, Precious, he whispered. I've watched you. I know everything about you, and soon you'll see that it's meant to be. He placed the photo back into the box with exaggerated care, as though it were a sacred artifact. His fingers lingered on the lid as if to seal away his most prized possession. His breathing growing heavier. Joanne's gaze turned cold and calculating. You don't understand yet, but you will, he said, almost to the empty room. You will understand soon enough what it means to be truly seen, to be truly loved. With a final lingering look at the content of the box, he closed it slowly and placed it back in the closet. The room fell into a heavy silence, broken only by Joanne's steady rhythmic breathing. As he stood up, his eyes glinted with a dangerous mix of hope and obsession. Light filtered through the curtains in Precious' room, gently nudging her awake. As she stretched and yawned, her thoughts drifted back to the night before and the unexpected visit from Joanne. She felt a faint sense of relief and optimism, something she hadn't felt in a while. After getting dressed and heading downstairs, Precious noticed something amiss. As she went outside the premises to get something, the friendly security guard from yesterday wasn't at his post by the front gate. The absence was unusual. Frowning, she approached her mother in the kitchen, where Mrs. Williams was sipping her morning coffee. Mom, have you seen the gate man this morning? Precious asked,
trying to sound casual but unable to hide her concern. He is not at his post. Mrs. Williams barely glancing up from her newspaper, a hint of irritation crossing her face. Oh, he quit last night, she said dismissively. I got a text from him around midnight. He said he had to leave for personal reasons. Good help is so hard to find these days, she said. Precious eyebrows knitted together in confusion. He quit? But why? He seemed perfectly fine yesterday. Mrs. Williams sighed, putting down a coffee cup. Well, people have their reasons. It was good, but apparently he found a better opportunity or something. It's unfortunate, but that's how it goes. Oh, okay, Precious replied softly, her voice barely above a whisper. She moved over to the refrigerator, the cool hair washing over her as she grabbed the bread bun to make breakfast. The familiar hum of the fridge filled the kitchen, but an uneasy tension lingered. That reminds me, Mrs. Williams continued, her eyes sparkling with a mix of excitement and determination. I think June 12 will be the perfect date for a wedding. Mrs. Bankley agrees too. Precious paused, the bread bun halfway to the toaster. These words should have surprised her, but they didn't. After all, it was her mother, the woman who had married another man just 2 weeks after Precious' father had died. That's 2 months from now, Precious echoed, her brow furrowing slightly. Yes, perfect, right? Her mother smiled brightly, but her expression held a no argument sign that Precious knew all too well. Okay, Mom, Precious said, suppressing her emotions. She moved to make breakfast, the sound of the toaster popping echoing in the silence, leaving her mother momentarily stunned. As the days turned into weeks, Precious found solace in her blossoming relationship with Joan. They often met at the park where the sun cast a golden glow over the green grass and blooming flowers. Hey beautiful, a voice called behind her one sunny afternoon, as she sat on a bench enjoying the gentle breeze. Joan, she exclaimed, turning to face his charming smile, which lit up the entire park. What took you so long? Had to pick up something special, he said, holding out a small bouquet of white flowers for my beautiful girl. Precious cheeks flushed as she took the flowers. They're lovely, thank you. As they settled into a comfortable rhythm. Precious, I noticed a man speaking to you earlier. Who is that guy? Joanne asked, his tone light but his eyes narrowing slightly. You saw that? She replied, surprised. He was just being friendly. He thought I was here alone. I told him I was waiting for my boyfriend, she concluded with a bright smile, trying to lighten the mood. Ooh, is that your way of saying yes to me? Joanne asked, holding his breath in anticipation. Yes, she replied shyly. Her heart raising. They both laughed, but a protective instinct flickered in Joanne's eyes. As the two spent the day riding bikes, enjoying picnics, and exploring the park, Joanne felt a lingering unease. He loved seeing Precious so happy, but the thought of another man noticing her sent a pang of jealousy through him. He had to protect his Precious from every lustful male. Only he should see her beauty. Only he should have her attention. Let's sit over there, Joanne suggested, pointing to a secluded spot under a large tree. Good idea, Precious agreed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. They spread out the blanket and sat close, the warmth of their body mingling in the cool afternoon air. Tell me more about your dreams, Joanne said, leaning in closer. I want to know everything about you. Precious' heart swelled at his words. Well, I've always dreamed of traveling. I want to see Paris and maybe go to Japan in the cherry blossom season. That sounds amazing, Joanne said, his gaze steady and sincere. I will take you there one day, just you and me. The promise hung between them, electrifying and beautiful. But Joanne's protective thought crept in again, I really don't like when other guys talk to you. Why? Precious asked, tilting her head. You trust me, right? Of course, it's not about that, he replied, running a hand through his hair, frustration bubbling under the surface. I don't want anyone thinking they can have you. You're special. She reached out, taking his hands in hers. I'm yours, Joanne. No one else matters. The soft afternoon light filtered through the curtains. Precious sat cross-legged on her bed, excitement bubbling within her. I can't believe you're dating Joanne, Sharon exclaimed, her surprise evident on her face.
eyes wide and mouth slightly agape. I know, right? Precious replied, her voice laced with joy. It just happened, like fate brought us together. Sharon leaned back against the headboard, her brow furrowing slightly. Don't you think you're rushing into this relationship? I mean, everything seems so fast. Precious shook her head, a smile unwavering. No, I don't think it is. I'm really happy, sure. And I want you to be happy for me too. I am, Sharon said, though her tone carried an undertone of skepticism. It's just, I don't know, everything seems so sudden. I'm sorry, babes, Precious replied, her voice softening. I get it, but you know I've been through a lot. Juwan makes me feel safe. It's different this time. Sharon sighed, her concern evident as she glanced at the floor. So why did you guys decide to have the wedding? Earlier than your mother suggested. Isn't next week too soon? Precious bit her lip, momentarily caught off guard. It is, if we were just getting to know each other. But it's Juwan we're talking about. He has always been in my life. Just then, Juwan's voice echoed from the doorway, breaking the tension. Thank you, Mrs. Williams, he called, stepping into the room with his trademark charm. Hey, beautiful, he said, a radiant smile spreading across his face. As he turned to Sharon. Hi, Sharon. Hi, she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. The weight of her protective instincts hung in the air. I'll leave you guys then, she said, standing up slowly, her eyes flickering between the two. As Sharon hesitated, Juwan's expression shifted, his playful demeanor giving way to a hint of sulking. I don't think Sharon likes me, he said, pulling Precious closer into his embrace. Precious couldn't help but smile, feeling warmth wash over her. She does, Juwan. She's just protective of me, you know, with my past experiences. Juwan's expression softened, his gaze locking onto ours. I know, my precious. You shouldn't have had to experience any of that. You deserve so much more. The sincerity in his voice made her heart flutter. Thank you, Juwan. It means a lot to me to have you here. He sighed, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. I wish I had the courage to ask you out sooner. You have always been the one. Precious felt the rush of emotions. You were always there, even when I didn't realize it. I can't believe how everything has changed so suddenly, so quickly. Sometimes, he said softly, his forehead resting against hers. Change is exactly what we need. I want to build a future with you, no matter what it takes. The intensity of his words sent shivers down her spine. She could feel the depth of his affection, but a flicker of doubt lingered in her mind. Was this whirlwind romance truly what she wanted? Juwan, she said hesitantly, pulling back slightly to meet his gaze. Are you sure we are ready for this? I mean, with the wedding and everything. He took her hands in his eyes steady and sincere. I've never been more certain about anything in my life. You're my everything, Precious. As they shared a moment of silence, the world outside faded away, leaving only the two of them in their intimate bubble. Let's take it one step at a time, she finally suggested, her voice barely above a whisper. Together, I promised, squeezing her hands gently. The hair in the bridal dressing room was thick with excitement and a hint of tension. Sharon stepped inside, her eyes immediately locking onto a figure, locking in the shadows. Juwan, looking slightly out of place. What are you doing here? Sharon asked, crossing her arms, a tone protective. Nothing, Sha, Juwan replied quickly, his charming smile faltering a bit. I just wanted a sneak peek at my bride. As you can see, she's not here, so leave, Sharon said firmly, her voice broken no argument. Please, don't tell her I was here, he pleaded, a touch of desperation creeping into his tone as he turned to leave. I'm sorry. As the door clicked shut behind him, Sharon shook her head, muttering under her breath. What a weirdo. I still can't believe Precious wants to marry him. Just then, Precious stepped out of the shower, steam billowing around her like a delicate veil. She wrapped herself in a soft towel, the anticipation of the day settling in. As she applied her skincare, Sharon couldn't help but admire her friend. You're going to look absolutely stunning, you know, Sharon said, her voice warm with encouragement. Precious smiled, a mix of nerves and excitement flashing across her face. I hope so. I just want everything to be perfect. Trust me, it will be. Now sit still. I'm going to help you with your makeup. Sharon said, motioning for her to sit in front of the mirror. As Sharon expertly applied the makeup, they exchanged light-hearted banter to ease the tension. Remember that time we tried to do a makeup tutorial on Instagram? Sharon laughed. You ended up looking like a raccoon. Hey, I didn't know how to blend back then, Precious retorted, giggling. I've come a long way since then. You two shared a moment of nostalgia, and the laughter helped calm Precious' nerves. I just can't believe the day is finally here, Precious said softly, her smile fading slightly. Sharon noticed the shift in her friend's mood. Hey, are you okay? You look a little uncertain. I'm just thinking about everything, Precious replied, her brow furrowing. It's a big step. Of course it is, Sharon said gently. But you love him, right? That's what matters most. Yeah, I do, Precious replied. I had to reason at the truth of those words. It's just sometimes I wonder if it's all happening too fast. Just focus on what you want, Precious. This is your day. Sharon reassured her, finishing the last touches of makeup. Now, let's get you dressed. As they carefully slipped the wedding gown over Precious' head, she felt a wave of emotion wash over her. The intricate lace and the delicate fabric made her feel beautiful. Yet the weight of the day loomed heavy on her heart. Meanwhile, in the church, the atmosphere buzzed with activity. Guests chattered excitedly, their voices blending into a comforting hum. As they awaited the bridegroom entrance, Juwon sat nervously at the front of the aisle, his charming smile masking the anxiety churning within him. He adjusted his tie, glancing at Mrs. Williams and Mrs. Bankole, who were seated proudly in the front row, their eyes gleaming with love and pride. They exchanged whispers, the anticipation palpable. The soft strains of music filled the air as the door to the church swung open. Everyone turned and gasps of admiration echoed through the pews as Precious emerged, glowing in her wedding dress. She was a vision of elegance and grace, the perfect bride. Hi bestie, if you're watching to this point, please subscribe. Turn on your post notifications to always be notified when I post a new video. And please don't skip my ads, they really help this channel. Share and back to the story. With each step down the aisle, the world around her faded and all she could see was Juwon, his eyes wide with awe. The whispers of admiration from the guests blended into a beautiful symphony, enveloping her in warmth. Wow, Precious, Juwon breathed, barely loud enough for her to hear, his heart racing. As she walked, everyone gushed over how beautiful she was. Precious felt the love and support of her friends and family, surrounding her like a protective shield. Yet, a small voice in her head whispered doubts. Could she truly trust her heart? Finally, she reached Juwon and their eyes locked. In that moment, her uncertainty melted away. This was her choice and she was ready to embrace it. You look stunning, Juwon said, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you, she replied, her heart swelling with affection. As they faced each other, the world around them faded, leaving just the two of them, ready to begin their new life together. The church was beautifully decorated with lilies, roses, and white ribbons. Precious stood at the altar, her fingers trembling lightly as she held a bouquet of lilies. The air buzzed with anticipation, but her thoughts were far from the crowds that filled the pews. Her mind drifted to Juwon, the man who had promised her forever. I do, Juwon said, his voice calm, confident, and filled with love, as he gazed deeply into Precious' eyes. His smile radiated warmth, as if there was no one else in the world but her. Precious' lips began to part. She could feel the words building in her chest, ready to escape. Suddenly, she felt a faint itch on her arm. At first, it was nothing more than an irritation. She scratched lightly, hoping to push past it and continue. But as the officiant's voice droned on, the itch spread. Her arms, her neck, her back, it was everywhere. Her heart raced, panic tightening in her chest. The scratching became more urgent, uncontrollably. Her hands darted to different parts of her body, clawing at her skin. Sweat began to bead on her forehead as her mind reeled. What's happening to me? Precious, Juwon whispered. His voice laced with concern, but Precious didn't respond. Her fingers tore at her dress, her movement frantic. The guests murmured in confusion. Before anyone could react, Precious let out a strangled cry and began tearing at her gown. shredding the delicate fabric with trembling hands. Shock rippled through the church as gasps filled the air. "Stop, Precious, stop!" Her mother, Mrs. Williams, screamed, rushing towards her daughter. But Precious couldn't stop. The itch, the burning, it was unbearable. Her skin felt like it was on fire, and she stripped off every article of clothing, desperate for relief. "Somebody help her!" Mr. Williams shouted as he rushed towards the altar. But by then, chaos had broken out. Guests stood, some ran for help, while others stared in horror. Juwon stood frozen, his expression unreadable. Within minutes, Precious collapsed, her body twitching uncontrollably. Paramedics had rushed in, loading her into the ambulance, as her mother wept uncontrollably. Her father held Mrs. Williams, trying to calm her, but his own face was a mix of worry. For 3 days, Precious lay in the hospital, unconscious, her skin red and raw from the damage. Every attempt to soothe her wounds had failed, and doctors were baffled. Mrs. Williams had not left the hospital since her daughter had been admitted. "Where's Juwon?" Sharon, Precious' best friend, asked repeatedly, but no one had an answer. He had disappeared after the wedding chaos and hadn't been seen ever since. On the 3rd day, a nurse called down the hallway, her voice cutting the tense air. "She's awake!" Mrs. Williams, Mr. Williams, and Sharon rushed into the room, their hearts pounded with hope and fear. But when they saw Precious, their relief turned to horror. Precious lay in the hospital bed, her body wrapped in bandages from head to toe. Only her eyes, swollen with tears, were visible. "Oh my God," Mrs. Williams gasped, her voice breaking. "Why is she wrapped in bandages?" Her knees buckled and Mr. Williams had to hold her up. The doctor, a middle-aged man with tired eyes, stepped forward. Her skin has been severely damaged by acid. We are not sure how it came into contact with her, but the bones are extensive. "Acid?" Mrs. Williams whispered, her voice barely audible. How could this happen?" Sharon, who had been standing silently, her mind racing, suddenly spoke up. "Doctor, could it have been in her cream?" Her voice trembled with disbelief. The doctor hesitated. "That's possible, but acid in a cream? That's very unlikely. Unless someone tampered with it." Sharon's eyes widened as a memory flashed in her mind. "Juwon," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I saw him in her dressing room before the wedding." Mrs. Williams looked up, her face drained of color. "What are you saying, Sharon?" "I saw him," Sharon repeated, her voice stronger now. "I didn't think much of it at the time, but Juwon was there. He was in there. I thought he was just checking on her things, but now..." The doctor frowned. "If someone tampered with her products, that could explain it." Mrs. Williams' face hardened with rage and fear. "Where is he? Where's Juwon?" Her voice cracked with desperation. No one had an answer, but Sharon's mind was already racing, piecing things together. Meanwhile, at Juwon's house, the atmosphere was disturbingly calm. The room was dimly lit with candles flickering on every surface. Juwon sat on the floor, his back against the wall, staring at the closet filled with pictures of Precious. They were everywhere, covering every inch of the wall. A smile, a laugh, a beauty. "It wasn't supposed to be this way," Juwon muttered, his voice low and filled with regret. He ran his hands through his hair, his mind unwavering with every thought. "I just wanted you to be a little darker, just a little. How could I let anyone else have you? When I waited for you for 13 years, I got rid of all of them, Precious, all those boys who wanted you. I made sure they were gone." His eyes flickered to a photo of Precious, smiling on a graduation day. Even the gate man, he had to go. He knew too much. Juwon let out a hollow laugh, the sound airy in the silent room. "But this wasn't what I planned. Your skin, I didn't want to ruin your perfect skin. How can you be mine if you're disfigured?" Suddenly, the door to his bedroom burst open. Juwon's head snapped up as the police stormed in, guns drawn. "Juwon Bankole, you are under arrest. Hands where we can see them," an officer shouted. Juwon didn't resist. He didn't move. He just stared at the pictures of Precious, his mind distant, disconnected from reality. Back at the hospital, the news of Juwon's arrest spread quickly. Precious, though still in pain, felt a weight lift from her chest. When Sharon told her everything, the betrayal stung. But at least now she knew the truth. I'm so sorry, baby, Mrs. William whispered, sitting at Precious' bedside. Her hand gently stroked her daughter's bandaged arm. Tears welled up in her eyes. I should have protected you better. It's not your fault, Mom. Precious rasped, her voice hoarse from the pain. None of this is your fault. Mrs. Williams sobbed quietly, her guilt overwhelming her. I never should have pushed you to be with him. I thought it was good for you. But I was wrong. I'm so sorry. Precious reached for her mother's hand, squeezing it gently. We are going to be okay, Mom, I promise. Weeks later, Precious was flown abroad for reconstructive surgery. The road to recovery was long and painful. But with her family by her side, she knew she would heal. Not just physically, but emotionally. As for Juwon, he was diagnosed with psychopathy and sentenced to a lifetime in a mental institution. Hey besties! Thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate your support. I don't take it for granted. If you're not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Please subscribe already. And as always, I'll see you in my next video. Bye besties! Mwah.